Hey friend, Roger Christofferson here with another first listen review. This one's kind of special for me. It's Talas's new album. I'd say new in quotes, 1985. And the reason I say in quotes is because this is the album that was supposed to be released back in 1985. The reason I say it's kind of special for me is because Talas is a band that was around in my area. I grew up in Western New York, and Talas is out of Buffalo, and they're a band that was big in the area, and they used to come down to the town I lived in and play occasionally. Me and a couple buddies would sometimes sneak down to whatever club it was they were playing at, because they did a couple around here. And I remember a couple times just standing outside listening to them. We didn't really know too much at the time, but we had heard them on the radio. There's a local radio station called 97 Rock, and they used to play the song Sink Your Teeth all the time, and every now and then they'd play Seesaw, but they used to play Sink Your Teeth a lot. I mean, that was pretty much the one. So, in our eyes, they were this huge band, and they were playing near us. So I kind of remember that, but I really remember the bass playing. And I remember like 11, 12 years old, I told my parents I want to play bass. I want to do that. That was because of Billy Sheehan, who is the only mainstay in this band. Originally, they recorded a couple albums with Dave Constantino and Paul Varga, and they used to have Paul Varga, I believe, sang and played drums. It was like a three-piece, and first album was kind of nothing like anything they turned into. It was kind of almost like a Raspberry sounding type band. It wasn't, there were a lot of vocal harmonies and kind of mellow, and then they kind of changed quite a bit on the next album, and it became kind of a hard rock. I wouldn't say metal, but they were hard rock. And I mean, their album covers were kind of vicious, looking like they were metal, even the first one, but they were not that at all. The funny part is that wasn't even the first album I bought. I was visiting a friend of mine out in Connecticut, and we stopped in this little record store, and they had a cassette of the live Speed on Ice, and so that was my first actual cassette album, whatever, that I could actually find of the band, because this is back when nobody record stores were carrying this stuff. They weren't like extremely popular outside of our area, and by the time I was old enough to afford anything, the copies were gone. People who bought them kept them. So I found this out there, and I listened to that all the time, and that was like the most inspiring thing for me to want to learn how to play bass. That was actually the different lineup. They actually had, Billy Sheehan had split with the other two, and he had formed his own version of the band that mostly records on this new one. They had Phil Naro on vocals, and phenomenal vocalist, amazing vocalist. Mitch Perry on guitar. I think Mitch Perry did some other stuff. Something reminds me about him playing with some version of Michael Schenker at some point. I'll have to check into that. I probably should have done that before I recorded this, but I kind of vaguely remember that. And Mark Miller on drums. The only thing different from the band from then until now is that on this album there's a guitar player named, I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce this right, Kyrie Najavsky. So if I'm saying that wrong and anybody knows, please correct me. But Mitch did guest on a couple tunes on this one. It's kind of funny because I was listening to this and I'm like, oh, I recognize a couple of these tunes, because like 3 of them were actually on that live Speed on Ice. And I guess this is the one they were set to record. All the songs were from back then, except for one called Black and Blue, which they actually wrote for this, but they wrote it to kind of feel in the style. I saw an interview with Billy where he was talking about how they'd actually were going to do some charity shows with Talas, and the other 2 guys, original guys, couldn't do it, so he reformed this version of the band to do those shows, and they just said, hey, why don't we just finish recording that album? Why don't we do it? We have the ability to do it now. And they kind of did it mobily in Mark Miller's living room, I guess, with you know, just remote recording gear and all that stuff. Sadly, Phil Naro actually passed away shortly after recording this. He kind of didn't tell them from the start he was suffering from cancer and passed away. And his son actually does some backing vocals on this album as well. The final song on here is another bass solo, and Billy is always kind of tricky with how he labeled his bass solos. He'd use like numbers and letters, like Live Bill, and they do it backwards. And on this one, it's for Phil is what it stands for if you read it backwards. So I thought that was kind of cool. There's so much I want to say about this band, but anyway, I guess I'll just get right into it. I mean, I'm not going to go through it like track by track, but the songs Intermounting Flame, Crystal Clear, and Do You Feel Any Better were on that first. And they are pretty close to the live version of that, which I thought was pretty cool. I remember in that interview with Billy, he said he wanted to stick with the feel. They didn't want to take these old songs and make them feel like they revamped them or redid them to sound more modern. They wanted it to sound like it was recorded in 1985, and I think they achieved that. The other songs on here do fit in that vein. Even the Black and Blue fits right in that vein. They're straight ahead rock and roll songs. I wouldn't even consider this metal. It's very, very close, but not quite. And Billy's bass playing style is like killer as always. He plays on this just like he would have back in the day. And so I think that's cool. They stuck with how they were doing these songs back then. I imagine they have demos and stuff, so they knew exactly what they were doing. So if you're going into it with that feeling, knowing this is supposed to sound like an album that was recorded in 1985, you're going to enjoy this. If you go into it thinking it's going to sound and the song's going to be written like something modern, you're not going to enjoy this. This is probably more for Talas fans, and I think there's a lot of them out there. And if you're a Billy Sheehan fan, you're going to love this. You're going to love the history. You're going to want to go back and buy those other albums. I really suggest getting Live Speed on Ice. That one like really did it for me. There's a little bit more energy on those live tracks that I don't think are quite on this, but anyway, it's great for what it was supposed to be. It actually achieved exactly what it was supposed to be. Even the album cover is kind of cool. It's got a DeLorean on it, and if anybody knows the history of 1985 and what that means, I'm not going to explain it to you. People either get it or they won't, but I thought that was kind of cool, kind of funny. It's a cool looking album cover. So yeah, anyway, if you're a Billy Sheehan fan, check this out. Phil Naro is a great vocalist. He's actually got some solo stuff. I've picked up some more along the lines too over the years, so I'm gonna have to go back and check those out again. And I didn't realize he had passed away until just a few days ago when I was watching that interview with Billy, so kind of bummed me out. But this good way to leave us, I guess, leave his little mark. And he killed it. He sings great on this. The guitar playing's great. It just was a fun album to listen to. I really, really enjoyed this. So if you guys get a chance, it's just really worth checking out, especially if you're into Billy Sheehan. You just got to check this out. It's achieved what it was meant to achieve. So I'm going to stop rambling. Yeah, check it out. Tell me what you guys think. Give me your comments on it. If Billy Sheehan made any impressions on anybody else when they were young like it did for me, that would be kind of cool to hear about. So yeah, can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. Like, subscribe, share it, all that fun stuff, and I really hope to hear some feedback on this one. So it's been great lately. I've been really enjoying the feedback, so I can't wait to hear some on this one. Talk to you guys later.